All right, welcome everyone to this new edition of the Continuous Testing Meetup. And we have a couple of interesting talks today. One is the short version that Oksana does, and then the main topic that Matthias will do. So without further ado, let's jump to the 5-minute vocabulary, the session that Oksana has been doing for a while, and we have gotten good feedback about it. So today, she's going to share with us the difference between QA, QC, and QM. I'm also wondering what these letters mean. So please, Oksana, take it from here, and I will stop sharing my screen.
So, hi, everyone. Nice to see you again after 1 month. 1 month stop. I think you can see my screen. Yes, so can you see my screen, Diego?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so hi again, let's start. So my name is Oksana and we have 5-minute vocabulary with me, and the topic for today for the next 5 minutes is the difference between QA, QC and QM, as Diego said. So as always, for 5-minute vocabulary section, I try to find all definition based on ISTQB. In case you don't know, ISTQB, it is International Software Testing Qualification Board. It is a multi-level qualifying program for software testers for sure, but also for all other people like developers, project managers, or business analysts. So everybody who is interested in software quality. And if you want to learn more about this definition that we are going to discuss today, so quality control, quality assurance, and quality management, please have a look into Certified Tester Foundation level. You can find a syllabus in internet for free and learn more about it. And for sure, you also can do a training program like 3 to 5 days program from foundation to expert level to learn more about it and to get a certification. But let's start. At first, before we'll start with a definition, like a short warm-up session, you see 3 statements. Please decide which statement is true and which statement is false. So the first one, testing is a part of quality control. The second one, testing is a part of quality assurance. And the last one, QM, it is quality management, includes both quality assurance and quality control. So just, I will give you 15 seconds, just write in the chat, what do you think? What is true, what is false, and at the end of the session, you will see the right answers. Okay, so let's move on to definitions. So I prepared 3 definitions for today. As you already understood, QS, it is quality control. According to ISTQB, it is a set of activities designed to evaluate the quality of a component or a system. QA, or quality assurance, activities focused on providing confidence that quality requirements will be fulfilled. And the last definition for today, and the longest one, it is quality management, or QM. Quality management, it is coordinated activities to direct and control an organization with regards to quality that includes establishing a quality policy and quality objectives, quality planning, quality control, quality assurance, and quality improvement. But let's look what exactly does it mean. Let's look a little bit deeper. So I think if you want to take something with you after this 5-minute session, just remember this slide. It is the most important slide from this 5-minute session. So quality management includes both quality assurance from one part and quality control from another part. Quality assurance have organizational and technical activities, like some examples of organizational activities, it is regulations, standard, or processes. Quality assurance ensures good processes, trained personnel, compliance with rule and regulation. So when processes in your organization or in your project carried out properly, the work products or application created by those processes are generally of higher quality, which contributes to defect prevention. And if you look into quality control, it includes dynamic and static test technique. And normally, if you speak about testing, we think about dynamic testing, test execution. So there is some examples of quality assurance. So quality assurance, it is about quality of process. So defects not made need not be fixed. Defects that were made need not be repeated. It is about defect prevention. So how we can achieve it? So there is some examples like guidelines, for example, coding guidelines or testing guidelines. We also use standards as quality assurance method, like standards within your organization or within your project, but also international standards like ISO, for example, ISO 25330, software and data quality. If you work for government projects, you will also for sure see legal requirements. And also we have a technical part of quality assurance, like using of IDEs, like integrated development environments, that also provide, help us to prevent defects. If you think about quality control, it also sometimes you will find a term of analytical QA. It means quality control. It is about fixing and finding errors, about verification and test procedure. So we want to find defects as early as possible in the process, and we have for this part two types of testing, so static testing and dynamic testing. Static testing, it is about examination of program without executing it. Like the best example is reviews, so you can do code reviews, requirements reviews, user story reviews, test case reviews, so all parts of reviews. It is a static test technique, so it helps us to find defects before we execute a program, or even we don't need to have a program to do reviews. Why we actually need it and why it's so important? Because we want to find defects as soon as possible, so before application or program will be created. But we also have a lot of defects that you will be not able to find during test execution, like missing requirements or codes that never will be executed. So it is only possible to find it during static test techniques. And we have a dynamic testing. It is what we normally understand about testing. So it is execution of program. So, and we have white box test techniques, black box test techniques, and experience-based test technique like exploratory testing. About exploratory testing, I hold a talk, a short session, I think 2 or 3 sessions before. In the next session, so in the next meetups, I'm going to look with you into some of these techniques, for example, some black box test technique, and also about reviews, how you can organize reviews properly in your project. So, and as I promised, here are the answers from the first question. So the first statement is correct. Testing is a part of quality control. The second is in diesem Fall false. And yes, quality management includes quality assurance and quality control. Thank you very much and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Great, thank you. I was just struggling to find the screen, and I got them right, but I was not sure. Cool. Thank you for this quick intro into the topic, Oksana. We're looking forward to the next session in the next meetup. So before moving on, as usual, we would like to thank our sponsors, Trendic and Sauce Labs. They make possible everything in this meetup. So from the streaming, from the paying for the fee of the meetup group, sending a little gift to the speaker, everything is thanks to these two companies. So again, big thank you to both of them. And I just wanted to highlight that during the last 3 weeks, we were holding a test automation workshop that lasted, it had three sessions. And some people wrote me asking if this was recorded or not. And we actually have recordings, not for the sessions that were done here in Europe, but for the sessions that were done in North America. So if you're interested, like where to get those YouTube links, I don't have them at hand, but if you go and join the Slack workspace that you can see when you go to continuoustestingmeetup.com, I will share the link later in the Zoom chat. You can just go there and ask us, and we will post the YouTube links if you want to follow the workshops. And if you want to check the material that was used during those workshops, you can head to training.saucelab.com. There are like open tutorials and workshops for you to follow there. You don't need to log in. You don't need to create any user in this website. For some exercises, you will need a Sauce Labs account, but in general, most of the concepts are applicable even if you don't have a Sauce Labs account. So it's mostly an agnostic type of training. And yeah, so let's jump to the main topic today. We're going to have Matthias talking about this interesting topic, which is the new It Works on My Machine, which is different browser versions, different browsers. And sometimes we focus a bit too much in testing everything in one single browser, latest version. Most of the time, this is Chrome. But I think Matthias will offer an interesting perspective about how to approach this problem, how to take into account different variables in the puzzle. And yeah, I will not use a lot of your time, Matthias, because I think you want to introduce yourself perfectly. And there you go. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time. And again, the stage is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for having me here. Yeah, let me share the screen. Good, looks like it's shared. Can you also see that on the top? Oh, no, I moved it now away. Great.
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Perfect. Okay, good. Let me just close. Did I see my notes? Awesome. Now I am prepared. So, hi everyone, and thank you very much for having me here, as I mentioned already, at the continuous testing meetup. And today my talk is about it works in my browser, and for that I want to start with some of my favorite phrases. The time I was developer, I have developing experience in more than 10 years, and I really loved and still like to develop code. And of course, as I developed code, the sun was shining, birds were singing, everything was running great until the time the customer came to me or called me and was like telling me the feature's not working. And of course, I reproduced it on my machine, and I told him, hey, come on, it works on my machine. Nowadays, I guess I would say it works on my browser, just the fact that most of the applications are now web-based. This time I had also some applications with fat clients. So kind of this phrase, it works on my machine, transformed to it works on my browser. And why this happened? Because at that time, we didn't spend so much effort into interoperability testing or cross-browser testing. And that's exactly the topic which I will share today. It's some experience. You will also see it live. But before, let me introduce briefly myself. Okay. My name is Matthias Zax. Yeah, I'm from Austria, living in Vienna, and I'm working for Raiffeisen Bank International. I work there as an agile engineering coach. What is an agile engineering coach doing? We coach and upskill teams in their maturity level and technical perspective, so CI/CD, DevOps, and test automation. And this we do in a kind of agile way, so we don't train them Scrum or Kanban, but we train them the technical techniques. Yeah. Myself, I have specialized myself in test automation, so they are the organizer of the community of practice for test automation, which is a strong internal community which works on test automation topics. So, for example, what you had before about vocabularies and standards, best practices, and so on, such stuff we are also doing there. So it's really great. Furthermore, I like to share what we achieve, so our success stories, but also our experiences we make on conferences and also on meetups. And last but not least, I contribute to kind of the paperwork. So I write articles for IT magazines, which is also really cool and nice experience I can recommend. If you want to get in contact with myself, please use the contact data. LinkedIn and Twitter is preferred, of course. Let me also briefly introduce my company where I'm working for, just because this talk is about experience of the company. So that you just know some details what this is about, what is the context, yeah, where this application was run, where we tested. So Raiffeisen Bank International, yeah, it's a bank, yeah, it's a commercial investment bank, and we serve the top 1,000 customers in Austria. So we are focused in Austria and Central Eastern Europe, and we cover everything with network units. So we have more than 2,000 branches, and the headquarters is in Vienna, and it's also where I'm working for. So overall, it's a bank, and you see now how we deal in the bank with cross-browser testing. Good, and that's the topic. So what is the topic today? What is the agenda? First, I will tell you what is cross-browser testing, yeah, that you know something. What is the vocabulary about, yeah? Then I will clarify the question, what you want to test with it, why you should go for it, what is the root cause, yeah, so why we need it at the end. And then I will come to our story, so what was our trigger, where we started, and I will also answer the question, where to get all this browser from. And at the end, you will also see a recording how we solved it. Cool, let's start. By the way, if you have questions, you can please put them into the chat. We will answer them afterwards. But I guess this was already told you. Cross-browser testing, yeah? Cross-browser testing is the process to test web applications across multiple browsers and operating systems. So this is involving so checking the compatibility of your application, yeah? that your application is runnable on the Chrome, on the Firefox, but on the Safari, on iOS, yeah, but also mobile devices. So that you can ensure that your web application works correctly on different, let's call it setups. Yeah. So this means different browser operating system combinations, different browser versions. This is very important. Yeah. So like the current Chrome, but also the current Chrome -2. Yeah. But or maybe also the beta version. And of course, very important, the mobile devices, especially if your depends on the application, of course, what you have. But if you develop an application, the main purpose is that it runs on a mobile device, and you know there are tons of mobile devices. So this is what cross-browser testing is about. Cross-browser testing is in the group of the non-functional testing. Yeah, so it's in the group of the interoperability tests. And what you want to test with it? You want to test more or less the browser, yeah. So the browser operating system combination. So you test the basic functionality of the browser, yeah. So how the dialog boxes are working, how the menus are displayed, how the form fields work, but also the cookie handling, yeah. So if you work with credentials and so on, they could be handled differently on the mobile browser and on the desktop browser. And also the inputs, yeah. For example, if you think about swiping, so the touch inputs and so on, those work differently. So you have to test them. But also the user interface, yeah. So the design, the appearance of your application. Here are the fonts, the images, the layout. Yeah? If a font is not available on an operating system, your application will look completely different. And the responsiveness. So this is, of course, mostly related to mobile devices, because there you have many and a lot of resolutions and also orientations, portrait and landscape, but also on desktop. For example, what happened to me, because I implemented now a second screen, which I have used in portrait because it's very nice for debugging and reading logs and so on. Small details, but I also check Amazon, for example, and it looks weird. On the 4K portrait screen, Amazon looks weird. Probably they have never tested it, or probably they said, oh, come on, so less users are working with that, we don't care. But you see, if you're in the wild, you have to kind of care about interoperability testing. In general, if I speak in front of an audience and I could see you, but nowadays it's remote, of course, and you don't have the camera on right now because of network. But sometimes I realize that you don't believe me. There are obviously question marks then, and I prepared something exactly for that, because it's not something which is only theory, it's really practically and it happens. And I prepared a small rebus, so a quiz. 3. The first one, it's about spot the difference, very easy. So this is an application. Of course, it's an example application and does not pretty. And this is the same application. It's just running on not on a different browser. It's the same browser, but it is a different browser version. And what was the difference? I guess you saw it already. The menu was not displayed anymore properly. And in detail, this was Firefox compared to Firefox beta. So they changed something. This could happen. They remove some CSS styling or whatever, and then your kind of old school menu item is not displayed anymore properly. Another example. You see that a lot. There's a form you have to fill out, some text, some radio buttons, and then the proceed button, of course. And this is the same form, but on a different setup. And you see what's missing? Exactly. The proceed button is missing. Maybe it's not visible, maybe it's not displayed. Maybe it's somewhere else. Maybe it's there, but just somewhere else in the corner. But at the end, you cannot use the application. You can fill in everything, but if you can't click on the proceed button, that's a problem. And here it was different browsers. In detail, it was the Chrome on the left side where everything was fine, and the Internet Explorer on the right side, and it just didn't display the proceed button. And the last one, this looks now a little bit more modern. It is a login. So I guess that's standard login here, which you can see. And this is the same login, but it looks different. And I guess it's easy to detach. Of course, the links were missing on the buttons. So the forgot password link and the login button was missing. So at the end, people were not able, or customers were not, or potential customers were not able to use our application. And this means at the end, you will lose money. So you have to test it, or you have to care about it. And what was the problem here? This was Firefox on mobile and Firefox on Windows. So you see this operating system, browser version combinations. This could lead to the end that you cannot use your application, or you cannot use it properly, or in my opinion, the worst thing what could happen, that your application works, but it works wrong at the end. So maybe it doesn't transport the values, or it transport differently, or something like this. Or a JavaScript event is not fired some API call because it's not handled anymore. Sometimes I get the feedback, come on, these are all legacy applications. They are old, I don't know, very old web technology. I use Angular, I use React, I use whatever. It doesn't happen. That's not right. This is not something for legacy applications, or not something for, this is only happens at Internet Explorer. Just think about new features. Just think about web NFC. Just think about artificial reality, or some new HTML tags which are coming, like the portal. For example, what you can also see here in the article, and sorry that it is in German, which was announced beginning of last year, is that Google Chrome receives now the new features which is our web NFC and artificial reality. So that was the Chrome version 81. So nowadays outdated, I would say. But if you go for these functions, this has to be clear that this will only work from Google Chrome 81 and above. And it probably will not work on Firefox because they will implement it maybe later, or they will never implement it. Another article, which was also from last year from Apple, they announced, for example, that they will not provide several API interfaces. These were related to security. It was about fingerprinting and all this stuff, because they had to clarify some security issues. But for example, Google did already provide those. So if you use that in your application, most probably on a mobile one, you cannot support an Apple, because maybe not now, maybe a little bit later in your application, you, at least in your team, you should know that, and you should test it if you go for it. One more example about these features. This is now new information. This is the current Chrome. I just give you here the list of features which are currently, that is in this release. Yeah, so the left one is the 89. That's the current one. It's the stable one. These are, you see a list of releases of features there. The next one, you see again a list, and you see on the dev, which is in the 91, which will come in some weeks. Again, the list. And there you see, for example, an X. Yeah, so they remove a function. They remove this WebKit before text inserted JavaScript event. So if you use it in your application, it will, from the version 91, will not work anymore. So you have to really consider interoperability testing, because this will not be covered by normal testing. Yeah, where most probably you will not right now test the version 91. Why you should do that? I mean, I understand this. I also haven't done it before. And you see there's quite a lot of features here about. And during my research about this topic, I found a very interesting website. And I also want to share this information. And this is Can I Use? It's caniuse.com. There, it's a website. No advertisement here, just I found it in my research. It's a website you can put there HTML technology, yeah, and it will give you, of course, not all browsers, but the main ones, I would say, and there are versions which they're supported, and you can also more details about it. And for example, if you put a web NFC, you see it's not supported at all, just in Chrome for Android. So if you use that technology, you have to be, it has to be clear that your application will only be possible in the full context there on Chrome for Android. So no others are available. You see some green flags. If you probably see them there, you have to do some special configuration, then it will work. But of course, a customer will not do that. Yeah? So you can't enforce him to configure his device differently. Maybe a more prominent one, because I guess most of you know that, it's HTML5. Yeah, of course, nowadays it's standard. So you see more or less everywhere it's green, so fully supported. But if you see, for example, on the Internet Explorer, of course, decommissioned already, but there it's only partly supported. And you see in the version before, this was different some years ago. Yeah? So I just want to show you with these kind of facts that it is here, it is present, and it will, and there will always be new features. Yeah, definitely. Now I want to show you why this is happening. Yeah, so what is the root cause behind why we have to care with that? And one problem here is that in this area we don't have really good standards, yeah, for the browsers. Let's say if there would be a standard for everyone, this would be nice. But you know, behind that there are different companies, and of course they want to have some benefit, yeah, or advantage, and so they compete. Yeah, clear. The root cause is the browser, how a browser is built, and the main components which is important for us are the following three, exactly those. So it is the browser engine, the rendering engine, and the JavaScript interpreter. What are they doing? They, at the end, they put your HTML code, your JavaScript code, your CSS files, and so on, passes them, and at the end build your web application. Yeah, it they prepare it that it looks pretty, that it gets interactive, and yeah, that you can work with it at the end. Yeah. And these components and all the other components, of course, which you see grayed out now, those can be different on each browser. Yeah? So on Firefox, Internet Explorer, and so on and so on and so on, Safari and so on. So that's the root cause. And I want to also show you, and that's now a snippet out of Wikipedia, which current browser engines are on the market, and this list is definitely not complete. Yeah, but you have the big players here like Apple, Google, Microsoft, Mozilla, and so on. So they have their own browser engine. Yeah, so the Google browser engine is not Chrome, it's the Blink, yeah, or the Chromium, but the Chromium is the open source project about of Google. Small details. So, but there is a list, yeah, and if you put, that's more or less the kind of Europe version or the Eastern world here. If you look a little bit more into the East, yeah, they have also different browsers, yeah, also because they have details. Just that you know that's not complete this list. Also from the HTML part, yeah, there are so many attributes. Yeah, just Google HTML attributes and go to Wikipedia or to any other resource, and you will see a ton of attributes. And these attributes get sometimes invented by one, then they get the standards or others are implemented. But if we go here to the second one after the green block, the ping, yeah, this was, for example, it's just available on the WebKit. Yeah? So this is only for Apple. The others have never implemented it up to now. And if you use that one, so this ping event, don't ask me what this is doing, but this is just an example. If you use that, you only can use it in Apple environment. One point I have not touched until now, or not precisely enough. So this is about that stuff. Yeah, it is about bugs, and you have to know. Yeah, Mozilla, yeah, or Chrome or Apple, whatever, they are developed. Of course, yeah, there is a team behind. They have their own backlog. There is a feature list in the backlog, but believe me, they have also bugs there, and that's okay, yeah, because at the end, their product is a browser, and it can happen that they have a bug inside. And for example, in our team, in our product is heavily related to uploading documents and signs them and so on and so on. But uploading documents or PDF files and so on, this is essential. If this is not working, that's horrible for us. And Mozilla had a bug exactly in that upload function in this area. It didn't work 100% correctly. So at the end, and we detected very early, we tested against the beta version, and we had to skip that one version. Yeah? That was easy because at that time we more or less had a known user cycle. It was very early, but if you're outside or released in the wild, it's difficult. It gets more difficult. You have to care about it different. What I want to point out, it always can happen that the bug happens, yeah, and one of the functions is not delivered as suspected. Yeah. For us, yeah, everything was about our application. Now I want to share how we dealt with it, why we dealt with it, and this is here now. What was our trigger? Yeah? We had an application, awesome. We have developed it internal and released it in-house. Yeah? So our user cycle was in-house. We have centrally distributed software, and more or less the browser versions were under our control. Yeah, more or less. After we wanted to expand our users, and we released it to our network banks. Yeah, so to the whole RBI group. So first was more or less Austria, then it got expanded, and it somehow this control was lost then. Yeah, not fully because we had kind of a list because we received it from our areas, and then the point came that we want to release into the wild. And then it got tricky, yeah, because then you don't have the browsers and the operating system in the control, yeah, because people can use whatever they want, yeah. And there are also very, very much exotic browsers. I guess also in this community now, maybe people use a completely different one, like Dolphin on Android or something like this. So that was our trigger. So we had to care about it. We were not able to ensure our quality on these different environments. Now I want to tell you how to start, yeah, where you want to start, so how to deal with that. And I want to show you how we start. Yeah, that's now our experience. And we started with defining the non-functional requirements. That's always a very good approach. So what we did was we came together, so the whole team, yeah, inclusive product owner and so on, and we discussed the topic interoperability testing. Yeah, and it started with telling people what this is and why we have to care about it. And then we had the questions: which browser we should support, or we should test on, yeah, that we can say, okay, we tested it. And of course, the product owner, his first answer was, we have to support all browsers. Because for him, this is very important, because any browser we will not support or we will not test on will maybe mean that he will lose money, because he will lose a customer, a potential customer. And if you're, as a tester, especially if you hear this universal quantification words like all, every, none, yeah, you know, that's tricky, and that's at the end mostly very expensive. And we made us a kind of a joke, and we did some weird calculation what it would mean to test on all operating system browser combinations. Of course, this was not very serious; it was more a joke, but still we used it for just show that's not possible. So what we did, we discussed, and this was what we agreed on. So we will test on Chrome. I guess I also have to, yeah, we will test it on Chrome, on Firefox, on Safari, and on Edge, so Internet Explorer. And this we will test on the latest version, -1, -2. So this is what we agreed on. Not very sophisticated, but important. What is even more important is that part. You don't have to read that now. It's just for me. We will not test on Yandex and UC browser, because our application will not be reachable, or our users are not from Russia and Asia and so on, because these browsers are the most prominent one. And also we will not test on Internet Explorer 11. That was especially for us very important, because maybe you know it's not so very convenient to use that one, because it will anyhow replaced, or it's meanwhile already replaced by the Microsoft Edge, yeah, or it's not supported anymore. So that we agreed on here. And from the operating system, it's more or less the same. So Windows 10 and Windows 7, macOS, and also the mobile operating systems. On iOS, only the latest 2 ones, so the latest and -1. The numbers are, of course, now outdated. And on Android, the latest 3 ones, yeah, because iOS has a much stricter upgrade of their operating system than Android has. So that's for that. Yeah, that's for the non-functional requirements. This is what we agreed on. So the browser we will test on, which we will say which is out of scope, and also from the operating systems. Then the next step, where we created a concrete matrix. Let's go browser matrix, whatever. So we just put there the operating systems and then the browser versions which we will test on. And we realized that's still too much. Yeah, that's too much combinations. I don't count them now, but that's too much to test on. It's too expensive at the end for us. So we started to discuss which makes sense based on our experience, based on the customer, which we know what they will use. And then we created these green ones. Yeah? Something for like Windows 10, which we said, okay, the edge test will run only on Windows 10, not on Windows 7, and so on and so on. Yeah, I guess you know what I want to say here. So you have to agree on what you know based on your experience or based on some research you're doing, but which combinations your customers is using, and those you will also use for your tests. And also put there why you crossed some out. Again, you don't have to read that, but for example, the minority will use Safari on Windows, so we will not test on that, for example, yeah. And we will just focus on Windows 10 and not Windows 7, because we don't have it anymore present, and it's also not supported anymore for Windows, and so on and so on and so on. Yeah. but it's important that you put it, write it down, because after 2 months, you probably don't know it anymore. And if your product owner comes then, because he's a customer the application could not be used, and he is using Windows 7, you can tell him, yes, but we have not tested it, yeah, so we can't ensure that it will run. And then at the end, you have to set up an included test plan. Yeah, so you first create the browser the requirements, then you create the matrix where you align what you want to test, and then you have to put it into test plan. So you put we put it at the end, our own interoperability test plan. So cross-browser testing. So we put together what we want to do, and we created some coverages, let's say test coverages. So we defined our MIB, that was the most important browser. Yeah, so the most important browser was for us the Edge 17 at Windows 10 at this time, because most of our users were Windows users, and they use their default browser, and this is the Edge. Then we had the B1, B2, B3. This was kind of the at least test coverage. So this we want to have at least for each release, then the extended one and the full one. Why we did that? And of course, nowadays these numbers look different because we adapted it. Sometimes you have to release very fast, and sometimes you have time for tests. For example, a hotfix. Yeah, if you have a hotfix, but of course you should also test the hotfix, and maybe you only run it on the MIB. Yeah, if it's a very very important one, maybe you only run on the MIB. Yeah, but maybe also MIB plus B1. If you have some small features, you can maybe take the at least. If you have a big feature or maybe some refactoring ongoing, maybe you take the full test browser coverage. So you test on all devices, yeah, which you want to test on. And these libraries you can then create. And you can also put there the scenarios you want to test there. For us, we didn't put so much effort at the time into these levers, so we tested all user scenarios, and also these combinations we moved around a little bit. The most important one is that you know these coverages and how we use them and why we use them. Good. You see, or hopefully, that there are quite a lot of combinations. I mean, we agreed on not much, just latest -2, and we threw so many out. Yeah, we agreed on just some, but still there were quite a lot. Yeah, and where to get all these browsers and this operating system browsers from, and of course, because we knew it best. No, but of course we started manually. Yeah, we started with our development lab. And we started also building up our own runtime environments or system under tests, where we put there the windows, we put there the browser, we run our tests, we shut it down afterwards. We did the same for Firefox and so on. And that's fine, but it was at one point in time, it got a little bit inconvenient because it's kind of repeatable work and you have to maintain it. And you need then dedicated resources for that. And yeah, we needed our resources more for writing the test and doing that for test automation and also, of course, manual testing. So we searched now for some solutions to kind of automate that stuff. And this is here, this I want to also mention, this is not a product pitch. Yeah, I know it's also this here sponsor, but this is here about our experience in RBI. And we evaluated Source Labs for our continuous testing cloud. And that's the reason why I have it here and why I will also show you how we did that. Because Source Labs is exactly doing that, so it will provide you with the runnable environment, yeah, and you can then run the tests. So this is how Source Labs looks like. Yeah, so you can see here what you have. It's kind of live testing. You will see it in a second in action. So what you can do there is you can select your operating system and you can select the browser you want to test on. You can also select here mobile devices, yeah, of course. And you can then run your tests. And this is not time for rock and roll. Somehow as the music, it was played in the beginning. So let's see, hopefully this video is working. At least it works on my side. So what I do here is we sign in here to Source Labs. That's the website. This is now a showcase. So we do now this live testing. And if you go to this live testing area, So we go to Crossbrowser. You can see here already the list of devices. So here are the mobile devices which you can test on. We, for our showcase, test here on desktop. And yeah, we select here, I guess we will do now a Firefox. We will select the resolution. And we will also select an operating system. So what we do is we will run the test, I guess, on the Windows environment. We start the session. So what is also doing? It's provisioning the environment. Yeah. So it, yeah, I don't know the details at actual. What you get is now the environment and automatically executed the link where you test on. This is also you have to provide on the UI. So what we do now is here we kind of play around. We do exploratory testing, experiment testing on the rbiinternational.com website. So we search a little bit. We will try out the login and so on. What is important to know, all events which are done right now or executed right now, those get recorded. So that those get put or collected together. And this could be then executed again, maybe on a different browser. And this session also itself gets also recorded. So for example, if you get an error, you can watch afterwards the video, which is quite convenient. So you don't have to go through all log files. So what we did right now, this very small test, you can find them now afterwards in the automated part. Why? Because you can execute it automatically also. Of course, also your Selenium test, which you have written, you can test against the SOSAPS environment. Yeah, it's kind of a Selenium grid. So this is the test which we have done right now. So you can see here the recording, and you can see also all events we did. You can see here the locators, I guess. You're familiar with that one. So you could execute that one also now on the I don't know, Windows Edge, or also on the iOS Safari and so on. So that's kind of the showcase. Now I want to, okay, hopefully you saw the video. Now I want to sum it up. So what do I recommend? What are the 5 steps to start success here, or to success interoperability testing? Is first, define the non-functional requirements together with the product owner, or however you call it in your team. Yeah, this is very important. You have to discuss it. You have to talk. Then start with the browser matrix. Yeah? Put it into a matrix, and then align on those you really want to test on. Don't test on all. That makes no sense. That's too expensive also, and also in a time execution perspective. Then define a test plan. Yeah? It's important. You have to align on a test plan. You have to set it up, because otherwise it will be difficult to execute. And care about the browser labs. Yeah? And there are more providers. Yeah, you can also build your own. Yeah, but care about the browser lab. That's very important. And the most important one is the 5th one. And that's obvious, but sometimes it's not done. And this is test. It doesn't help you if you do all the theoretical stuff and you never execute it, or you just execute it once and then once a quarter or something like this. Really, you have to care about it. Yeah, and you have to keep on it. Because it makes sense, especially if I have set it up once. Run the test. That's the end of my talk. Thank you very much for your attention. Hopefully I was able to share you some experiences and to bring you the interoperability testing a little bit closer. Yeah, now I'm open for questions. So that was my rock and roll now.
Awesome, thank you very much. If anyone has any questions, just unmute yourself and ask yourself. We had a couple of questions from Fenki, and I will read them since they don't have a microphone. The first one was about this metrics, the table that you showed. How often are those updated, since browser versions change and things like that? When is this defined and how often is it updated?
We aligned here more or less. I mean, you know, we agreed on the latest and so on. So that part is easy, but the matrix we aligned here, as far as I remember, the Chrome and Firefox, they are released monthly. So every second sprint, we had it part of our planning of the scope, that we put a closer look at that. If we just update it with the latest one, so the latest one comes in and the -2 drops out, or we have to put additional attention on that. So it was
Awesome.
more or less,
yeah.
we kind of covered every sprint, but every second it was then the sprint was 2 weeks. Just
yeah, thank you. So you just have it in your routine and go through it every second sprint. That's nice. Yeah. The second question was about the naming. Is there a convention behind it? This T1 to 5 and all those things, or was that just your internal naming?
That's a very good question. And yes, we have here naming conventions for our test cases. They are based on user stories, user scenarios, so on user journeys. Sorry. And the T1 is, for example, is a successful test case. A T5 is, for example, a negative test case. I guess we have not invented that one. This is available. I guess you can Google that one. For example, a T2 is an alternative one. If I can, maybe an example, if you have a login and you have their credentials, a T1 would be you put your email address and password and login is successful. A T5 is the email address is already existing and you verify the error message. And a T2 is, for example, you have a login with Facebook button or login with Google. And there's also then a misuse and the error. So for example, SQL injection is then I guess T4 or something like this. This is really very good. I can highly recommend that you align on such stuff. Because you see already in the test summary report, or if you get back your test results, you see if a T1 is failing. That's very bad. You should definitely look on that one, because this is a success story, a success user journey, also T5, and so you can group your test cases. Also in the security perspective, the T3 and T4s are more related.
Thank you. Yeah, that's really great. Then there was one question, I think it was Sourceledge related. Are you also using visual regression or only testing the functionality, even if it's non-functional tests?
We used only the functional part. So we did no visual tests. This was, in our case, not necessary. But I guess nowadays, maybe it makes, at this time it was necessary, but because we didn't put so much attention to the layout itself. If maybe an icon is displayed differently or a font and so on. But sometimes the things are available, so you can locate them. For example, a login button, as you saw in my rebus. So maybe it's in the DOM, but it's just somewhere in the corner, but your test automation will probably click on it. And so your test case will probably green, but it will not work. And for that, you need some kind of screenshot test or visual tests that you can ensure that you can see, oh, okay, at the end for the customer, it's not working.
How often do you check them? I assume you don't go through them every iteration, or do you basically check in your automation every time they make a screenshot?
We have not done that. We have no visual tests.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, okay. I just meant it would make sense because exactly these areas we have not covered. But that was clear for us, but we have not went for that because first we didn't have the experience. So we wanted to start with cross-browser testing, interoperability testing, and we used our functional tests because those were already available. And the next step would be then going for visual testing.
Awesome, thank you. I have another question about where do you get the data about usage of browsers and screen sizes and things like that, if you don't already have a running application where you can just basically monitor it yourself?
What we did, I mean, first we had kind of our customer group, as I explained, kind of expanded. So at first it was quite easy. We just asked our central distributed software department, somehow I don't know how to call them, because they knew it. And then as we expanded and we knew where our application will be available, it was also on the app stores. we did research on these dedicated countries, which browsers are mainly used and which devices. And this you can more or less do at your own, and at Google you find some nice statistics. And then we discussed it and we aligned on that. Yeah. And of course, we always ask our partner, yeah, so the network bank, because they also know, yeah.
Thank you very much. There's one more question. I'm not sure if I get it, but have you considered also the trends?
I guess you speak here about coverages, the trend in the coverage, or which trends
specify
do you mean? At least that's a trend I know. If you mean a trend for browsers in the coverage area, I just read that. Okay, in the coverage area, especially for me, yeah, I can give you now a kind of my private opinion on matrix and trends. Matrix does not count, so a number doesn't count anything for me. Yeah, the most important one is the trend, and the trend should never be negative. So if you, for example, as I mentioned, the most important browser and they at least cover, if you have here a coverage of, let's say, 95%, you should stay on that one. Yeah. So, and also, I mean, if the MIP should always be working. Yeah, that's no doubt. Yeah, but if maybe at the first level, if someone is not working, that's always a team decision. It's a team decision if you want to release, if you want to fix it, or if you say, okay, it's not working, and we'll live with that because we have to release because very important features or bug fixes. It's always a team decision. So related to trends, those should never be negative. So decreasing.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to ask another question. Are there any tools that a developer can use, like a linter or something, where they get feedback on if let's say an HTML tag they want to use is already supported broadly, or are there any like technical limitations that you don't have to use the external tools to get that feedback?
I like that one. I should Google that or research it because this would help. If you, for example, if you're developing and you use a HTML tag and it's, I don't know, covered only by 5% of the browsers, let's say something like this, and you get the information by a linter, this would be really great. Yeah? I don't know such plugin or tool, but I put it on the post-it and I will do that research. Yeah?
Okay, thank you very much. Then I think we will wrap it up. Maybe one last question from the chat. I don't know if that's something you ever had to do, but if you move into a new country, is there anything you would consider in that case?
Yes,
like,
definitely.
He mentioned
you have to do
China.
Yeah, for example, China. Yeah, you have to research which browser is there used mostly. Yeah, and to be honest, I never knew before about UC browser or the Yandex browser. This information I received during the research about interoperability testing because I never knew that. I also thought the whole world is using Chrome, Firefox, Safari, and Microsoft Edge. But I didn't know that there is others, and those are about 50% of the usage of them. Yeah. So if you go to China, you definitely have to support the browser because with Google Chrome you achieve not much because they somehow don't like
Yes.
Google because it's coming from America. And if you're going to release on their app store, because there are also other app stores, I'm now in an area where I have no experience. I have to be honest there. I never released an app to China, but if it's a website, for example, you have to definitely test on these browsers.
Awesome, thank you very much. I think that's it. Anyone else got any questions? Okay. Well then, Matthias, thank you very much. We learned a lot.
It was a pleasure. Very happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for being here. And yeah, I had the same question, the thing you asked over, like, what's your data source for deciding which browser? But yeah, this was already answered. So again, thank you for being here. for answering patiently all our questions. And that was good. That was good to share all that knowledge, because I think overall, you don't need to use Sauce Labs to like get into all this. You could just build it yourself if you have the resources for that, or do a mix of things. But the important thing is have data to decide what to use, no? Like which browsers. And if you just start deciding with the premise that you need to support everything, then that's a good recipe for failure. So yeah, again, thank you for being here. And let me wrap up by announcing the next meetup we're gonna have next month. So next month, this is in about 3 weeks. Nancy is gonna be with us. Actually, I have to thank Severin. He made the introduction between us, and she's a solutions architect at Wrangle.io, and she's based in Toronto. And Toronto, right? No, Vancouver. I don't remember anymore. But she will be with us. That's the point. She's gonna tell us how to get started with Cypress, and probably some of you will find this topic interesting. So looking forward to see you all in the next meetup. And if you wonder where to get the links, where to see the videos, if you missed any of the previous meetups, just head to continuoustestingmeetup.com, and you will see all the events over there. You will see the links to the meetup.com groups, and you will also see the YouTube videos on each event. Yeah, so head over there if you need any more information. The Slack group is there. Also our Twitter account if you want to follow the meetup. And that's about it for today. And really thank you all for being here. Thank you, Matthias. Thank you, Oksana. Thank you, Severin. Thank you, Aurelian, for being here. And all of you here, thank you for taking the time to be with us, and see you in the next meetup. Bye.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Bye.